It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. And, well, getting close to 2015, that means it's time for predictions. And who better than Jason Hartman, because he's been so right in the past. So let's find out what he's thinking of for 2015. And if you're looking to find Jason, well, jasonhartman.com. So, Jason, how are you?
Well, I'm dusting off my crystal ball again, and I've been right about a lot of things, but I've been wrong about two fairly major things, I must admit.
Yeah. So, what are those aside from finding that woman of your dreams in 2014? What else? What else?
Yeah. Well, I didn't predict that I would find her in 2014.
Oh, that was my prediction.
It was. Gosh, thank you for predicting that for me. That's like a blessing. Wow, that's very nice of you. But good stuff. Well, I've really only been wrong about 1.5 things, I guess I should say, but they are pretty major. And one is interest rates. I just don't know how or why we have interest rates this low still. I would have thought they would be much higher. But again, there's a lot of manipulation, obviously. And really, nobody can predict interest rates very well, except the Fed chair. And, if you look at Grant's interest rate observer, right, which you're certainly familiar with.
Jim, sure.
Yeah. In interest rates, they should be higher. This is nonsensical, the way our government and our Federal Reserve can kind of, what I say, defy gravity. It just doesn't make any sense. And, I guess it's because inflation is low, and that's my half thing that I've been wrong about. I only sort of became wrong really this year, or within the last year or so, I should say, because inflation was rearing its head. But wow, nice drop in oil and energy prices, huh? I did predict, and I was right, about 2.5-3 months ago, that oil would drop to about $80 a barrel. And I had a guest, a very renowned guest, a financial newsletter publisher on my show, and I predicted it on the air, where he was saying oil was going to go to $140, and this was when it was around 100, I believe. And I said, nope, it's going to 80. And I won on that one, hands down prediction. And I think that's one of the things that's really tempering the inflation that should be baked into the economy. And I think it is still baked in, but it's going to, again, another example of defying gravity with funny manipulations and just odd things going on. Thoughts, contradictions, arguments? Go for it, Kerry.
Well, interest rates, I believe, will continue to stay down because they want them down because it's financial repression.
Yep.
And it will force people to stay in the stock market and basically do what the powers that be want them to do, which is stick with the winner, with the stock market. And, I think that oil probably hit a cycle low and probably will go up during the year. But if oil is at a low, not because of manipulation, but because the world economy is really in as horrid shape as we think it is, then all bets are off, and maybe it'll go even lower and stay there. But I just don't believe it because I think consumption is going up, and I think it'll be headed back up again, is my gut feel. The cycle guys who I talk to, and there's about half a dozen of them. I've made it a hobby now of tracking down cycle investors because of all the people I've talked to over the past 3.5 years. They're the ones who've been the most accurate. They say that oil and precious metals are going up over the next couple of years, and I just think they're right. So,
all right. Well, it's interesting. And, one of the things that makes the prediction business so absurd nowadays, and, it always has been, but it's just more so now than ever, is that if we had a true, Austrian economy, right, and we had a more libertarian sense of the economy, and we didn't have this manipulation and intervention from government and central banks, as the way it should be, right? Then we could really make predictions And they would probably be pretty darn accurate most of the time because we would be looking at the math and looking at the market. And, you can get a sense for people's behaviors in that. But when we have all of this manipulation of precious metals prices, of interest rates, and this financial repression, as you call it, and some others call it as well, that makes it really, really just a difficult game to predict. One of the many predictions I was very right about is the homeownership rate. I predicted that would decline, and I think it should decline, and I think it should decline more. That might sound funny coming from a real estate guy, but the homeownership rate is just too high, if you ask me. So that's a controversial thing to say when you're in the real estate business. But I do believe that, and I think that will help investors. Again, I deal on the investor-only side of the real estate business, where 100% of my firm's clients are investors. And every time the homeownership rate drops, it strengthens the rental market. And so that's one of my predictions for 2015, is that the rental market will continue to strengthen. And it has, and I've been right about that. And it's great news for long-term buy and hold investors, of which I am one, and all of our clients are in that business. So, there are several reasons for strengthening rental market. One is obviously declining homeownership rate, but why is the homeownership rate declining? That's the important thing to look at. And one of the reasons, Kerry, is something I believe I've said on your show before, and that is the job market. The job market is unstable. We all know that. The idea of working for any company for a long time is out the window. Everybody's got like massive insecurity nowadays in terms of their jobs. But on the good side of that does make for a more and I hate to say it because if you've been laid off, you certainly don't feel this way, but it kind of makes for a dynamic economy in the sense of Joseph Schumpeter, who promulgated the idea of creative destruction. And so when companies can be more nimble, and this is one of the things that's choking Europe, among many other things. I mean, Europe has become a bureaucratic mess, obviously, and a socialistic mess. But it's just choking Europe that, like one of my friends has a company in Ireland, and you can't lay people off there. It's just impossible. And you can't, when you have that kind of situation where you have no rights for employers and too many rights for employees, you can't have creative destruction. So what I was getting to as it relates to the housing market is that, number one, that's good because it causes price discovery and innovation and creative destruction more quickly. But on the side of the housing market, what does that mean? Why does it strengthen the rental market? Well, as I've said probably on your show and certainly on my show many, many times, is that the best thing you can have as a job seeker, the best thing you can have on your resume is mobility. Yeah. Because mobility allows you to go where the jobs are. And there was a very interesting cover story in Time magazine about maybe, I want to say it's about 4 years ago now. And it was a really fascinating new way to think of this, because we've always thought that, a high homeownership rate is good. And, it strengthens communities and gets people to put down roots and they spend money and blah, blah, blah. And really this article flew in the face of that. And there's a lot of reasons to disagree with that old-fashioned idea that high homeownership is good. And they studied these markets where homeownership rates are very high around the country and other markets where homeownership rate is lower. And where homeownership rate is lower, it allowed people to move to where the jobs are and created more dynamism in the economy and in the individual lives of those people. So I actually very much believe that lowering the homeownership rate a little bit is a good idea, believe it or not. I mean, people in real estate, my peers think I'm nuts. Some of them do. But if you really think it through, lowering the homeownership rate to maybe 55%, where it might be a natural level, where we're not giving people, the loans we gave them that caused the subprime subprime crisis, fog a mirror, get a loan, one day out of bankruptcy, one day out of foreclosure, one day out of prison, we'll loan you money, and a lot more than you should be loaned, just to artificially increase the homeownership rate. That's just complete stupidity. So that's one of the reasons I believe the rental market will continue to strengthen in a nice way in 2015. And I've got some others too, but maybe you have some thoughts.
Home ownership for the sake of home ownership makes absolutely no sense, and it should have never taken place here. Let's face it. That's just insanity. But there's an alarming trend taking place. It's not really a trend. It's just human nature, which is those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. And that is that, the government, the FHFA, is going to loosen up the reins on mortgage credit. They're going to...
We have a very short memory in this country, don't we?
Yeah, I know you've read this.
Yeah.
And
I talked about it in detail in one of my episodes.
So it's just pure stupidity. Yep. How many people will actually be able to qualify anyway for a mortgage? That is questionable. We don't know the answer to that, but not a good thing. But I think it will partially slow down the erosion a little bit in homeownership potentially. But
we'll see how much of that fake artificial stimulus is pumped into the economy through easier lending standards. I do believe, though, I've got to make one distinction in everything I've said, that of course everything got stupid and that caused the mortgage meltdown. I mean, it was ridiculous what we saw in the lending market in 2004, 2005, even 2006. But I do believe, Kerry, that the banks overcorrected. I think it went too far in the other direction. And, this pendulum is always swinging back and forth in so many areas of society, from, liberal to conservative, from whatever to whatever. And in the banking and the mortgage market, I think it swung too far. So I do think there's room for it to loosen a little bit more, and without causing harm. But I would love to see it loosen more for investors, because oddly, and this has just never made a lot of sense to me, it's much harder for investors to finance rental properties than it is for homeowners. And the thought being that in a crisis, people will always really fight to keep the house in which they live versus all of the rental houses they might own. But that's sort of a dumb idea if you think about it, because the rental houses produce income. The home in which one lives is a 100% liability. It just, that produces income. The rental properties, the home in which you live, produces no income. It's just an expense. Yeah. So it's a consumer item, really, if you think about it, because you're consuming home ownership, a place to live, and you would need to do that no matter what. So it is interesting. A couple other reasons I think the rental market will strengthen. We really alluded to this one already, but it's hard to get a mortgage, even though the interest rates are low. It's difficult to obtain these mortgages. And we talked about that a little bit, and the employment situation. And then the other one is, people are still leery of the housing bubble. And I believe in some markets there is another housing bubble. In the cyclical markets, the high-flying markets, whether they be in the Northeast and the expensive areas there, whether they be in California or South Florida, those high-flying cyclical markets, the ones we don't like to invest in, versus the linear markets that we do like, that produce really good cash flow, those have been pumped up pretty far. And if rates stay low and mortgages become a little easier, they probably got some more mileage on them, but they really don't make sense anymore. It's not as bad as it was during the last cycle, but it's getting there. So. I think that's interesting. So vacancy rates will decline as rental market strengthens. Now I've got another factor, another item that I want to predict for 2015, and that is and this really relates to my last point about these linear versus cyclical real estate markets around the country. There's no such thing as a national housing market in a country as large and diverse as the United States of America. There are about 400 local markets, 400 almost, okay? Mm-hmm. And with that in mind, it's important to understand that the linear markets, the second-tier cities, are really the attractive places to invest. So don't invest in San Francisco. You're better off investing in Austin, Texas, for example, or Charlotte, North Carolina. Right. Okay. These high-flying cities that are very, very expensive, New York City would be another great example. Boston would be another great example. Mm-hmm. Those places just don't work. The numbers don't work. The cash flow is terrible in these markets. And even though they're the places you hear about on the news, mm-hmm. that doesn't mean they're the right places to invest. I would much rather own properties in the major cities of Texas or Tennessee or Georgia or Indiana or Missouri than I would in the major cities of California, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Florida, because they make sense. So I want investors to start thinking in terms of second and third tier cities. That's where the action is for investors. That's where the profits are. That's where the cash flow is.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when you're looking for cash flow, you can't be looking in New York City. You can't be looking in Miami. Miami is the hottest market in the country right now. It's just insane.
Here we go again. Here we go again.
Right?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Those cities, Kerry, are for gamblers and speculators.
Yeah.
And, I've just become, after years and years of doing this, I've become much, much more conservative as an investor. Listen, I've made some money gambling on real estate deals and speculating on real estate deals.
Who hasn't?
But, it's just, it's just luck. It's you cannot. I have never met anybody who can reliably predict appreciation or depreciation. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm. It's just like companies. People want to buy companies, and they're never looking for dividend growth. Yeah. They're always looking for capital appreciation.
Right. And those are the gamblers. Those are the speculators. I say, look for dividends. And we've debated this point at length over the years. We've known each other, but that's why I'm not a metals guy. There's just no cash flow from gold or silver. There's no dividends. I think it's a little bit of an insurance policy. I think it's good to have some money in that stuff, but some people just give it way, way more credit than it deserves. I will say that. And I know how a lot of your listeners think, but it's insurance.
Strictly, just like homeowners insurance or car insurance or life insurance. That's what it's about.
There you go.
Plain and simple.
Yep.
Nothing else. And, you're looking for appreciation. Well, if it appreciates way, way high, you're going to have so many other problems. You're not really going to be thinking about your precious metals portfolio. Trust me on that.
Yeah. And one of the things investors just constantly fail to calculate in their returns on investment, whether it be high-flying capital appreciating real estate or high-flying capital appreciating stock or precious metals, is they just never really calculate the tax consequences that steal a lot of your profits. I mean, if you're looking at gold, for example, 28%, it's taxed as a collectible.
Yeah.
Real estate, the nice thing about it, if it's income property, if it's investment real estate, you can exchange it on a 1031 tax-deferred exchange. It's the most tax-favored asset in America, bar none.
Yeah, that's correct. And there's so many other benefits to it that it just makes so much sense. So, hey,
There you go. Okay. I know we got to get toward wrapping up here, but a couple other points.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see what you think about this because I have long said that this is a fake recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Keynesian inflation-induced recovery, even though that inflation kind of stopped rearing its ugly head somewhere around a year ago in any significant way. I don't believe, and I don't think your listeners believe either, in the official government statistics on inflation.
Yeah.
Basically, what you can do is you can always pretty much double or even in some cases triple those numbers to get the real inflation rate. Okay. Sure. But it does seem like the economy reached a bit of a lull. Some of that is technology, some of that is oil prices. And, but if you look at things like food prices, there's still been some significant inflation baked into the economy the last few years. It did slow. And, it's hard for me to tell really where the overall general economy is going. I think that, and this is good, I think that the psyche of the country is improving, but so consumer confidence is improving. But there is still a whole underclass of people out there that have fallen off the unemployment rolls. They're the discouraged workers who aren't counted anymore. And that's, I mean, the digital divide, as I call it,
the lost.
Is leaving a lot of people behind, the people who are just lost out there. So we are unfortunately losing our middle class. And the middle class is huge in this country, so it's going to take a long time to chip away at it. But that chipping has been occurring for several years, where we're seeing the ultra rich, and then people moving down into the lower middle class that used to have retirement plans of playing golf and going on around the world cruises, and that's just not going to happen for a lot of people, unfortunately. So,
yeah, it's really sad, but
it is sad.
You're correct. The American dream kind of put on hold, and it's on life support, and it might be dying. I'd like to think not, but my eyes tell me, my heart would like to believe not, but my head tells me it's on its way out.
So here's the thing that could save us all. I always like to say it, and that is technology.
Yeah.
The world of technology is pretty darn exciting nowadays. I mean, more exciting than it's ever been in history.
Oh, yeah.
Kerry, I don't know, maybe people thought that when the steam engine was invented, but there is so much convergence in the world of technology. And we're 20 years into the internet now, and look at the way that has just revolutionized the planet in 2 decades, and it's only going to get better. So technology is the thing that could all save us. Nanotechnology, biotechnology,
3D printing.
3D printing is. Manufacturing is coming back to America, possibly in a moderately significant way. I don't want to say that that it's coming back completely.
3D print a house.
I know.
Soon
and a car.
Yeah,
and a car.
Everything, and just
organs for your body. 3D print new kidneys.
Much.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I mean. I don't want to be totally pessimistic, but we've got some real systemic problems here that mainly hinge around government and regulation and stifling initiative and those types of things, that collectivism that destroy initiative and innovation. And, I think, like you say, it goes in cycles. It's the Ayn Rand thing. And hey, but we've been in bad spots before in this country, and we've been written off before. And I don't want to be totally
Kerry,
pessimistic.
the good news is Obama is starting to plan his library. So the Obama regime is on their way out the door.
Yeah, well.
And hopefully we're going to see a sea change where we'll get back into a more innovative, business-friendly world where at least companies can make decisions because they know what to expect. I mean, this administration has been so jerky that it's not even a matter of how bad their policies are. It's just a matter of indecision where at least if executives know that we are moving into a hardcore socialist economy and that's going to happen, they could plan for it. But
I hopefully in that library they'll have a lot of audio books, because I think the average person that goes there probably will be functionally illiterate, Jason. But we got to go on that note. And jasonhartman.com, go there. Courses, all sorts of things to make you a successful real estate investor. It's not that hard the way Jason lays out the plan. And Jason, we'll talk to you again in a little while.
Okay, Kerry, I got a final word for your listeners.
Sure.
Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and then wait.
Yeah. All right. I like that. And hey, talk to you soon. Be well.
Okay. Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.